In the 1990s, Art Bell's paranormal-themed radio talk show, Coast to Coast AM, boasted 15 million listeners nightly. And Linda Moulton Howe considered it the perfect outlet for sharing her investigations with the public.
Linda Moulton Howe reports on all kinds of strange occurrences, things that are inexplicable otherwise. Now, Linda, welcome.
Thanks, Art. Well, for the first time since the mid-1970s, as you pointed out,
Linda's regular appearances as both a guest and a host spanned 28 years, making her tenure on the show longer than both Art Bell's and current host George Norrie's.
So we've all heard stories of the secret space program, but when Linda hears stories of this, she starts to investigate. Linda, tell us about the secret Apollo programs.
Well, this is the closest I've gotten to somebody who seems to have firsthand eyewitness testimonies that would confirm the truth that non-human entities, friendly, neutral, and unfriendly, are interacting with Earth, the Moon, Mars, and beyond, and they have been for centuries, according to insider leaks.
Wow.
Linda's done some great reports over the years. They run the gamut from strange sightings to abduction cases, you name it. Anything paranormal that you've heard in your life, Linda's covered it on Coast to Coast.
While Linda was able to reach millions of listeners on Coast to Coast, she still felt she needed her own means for disseminating information directly to the public.
What was coming into me in that period of time were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of letters. I could open them, but I realized that I didn't have any vehicle at all in which to interact with the world, and then I just said it out loud, Earth Files. I want to do Earth Files. And that is how it began.
On November 28, 1998, Linda launched Earth Files as an archive for her many years of research and created a website so that she could share the details of her investigations with the public. Almost 10 years later, in 2007, she started an Earth Files YouTube channel where she could report live on her latest findings.
This is Earth Files, the award-winning news site with the latest updates in science, environment, and real X-Files.
She's got over 250,000 followers worldwide. She writes the program, she edits it, she produces it, she does all the research. It is her. And you can almost describe Earth Files as her magnum opus, really, because this will ultimately live on as her archives.
Earth Files and Coast to Coast have provided Linda a much wider audience with which to share her research. But of even greater value to her is hearing from the public. And even before she had these outlets, Linda was contacted frequently by people who alleged to have been abducted by extraterrestrials.
As the decade of 1990 turned, I got a handwritten letter from a woman named Linda Porter. And she sent drawings. And it was about her coming into a relationship with extraterrestrials in which they seemed to be wanting her to become like a spokesperson.
Linda investigated Linda Porter's account and included it in her book, Glimpses of Other Realities.
The Linda Porter story is one of the biggest stories Linda Howe ever wrote about because it wasn't a crop circle or a cow. Here's what it was: a human being encountering creatures from another realm, another reality.
That was the first time in my work as an investigative journalist that Linda Porter and others all of a sudden began to be contacting me about experiences they had with extraterrestrial beings. They were coming to me to say, here are my drawings, here is what I have seen.
Author Whitley Strieber became one of the most high-profile alleged alien abductees when he wrote about his encounter with extraterrestrials in his 1987 book, Communion. But before he told his story to the world, he told it to Linda Moulton Howe.
Linda is a very open-minded person, and you don't feel uncomfortable sharing weird stories with her. I don't think that either of us was too deep into the abduction material when we met back in 1986, but nobody was. But she didn't have any problem with my story. She just wanted to know more.
As with animal mutilations and crop circles, Linda immersed herself in the abduction phenomenon, and it led to a major revelation.
I've interviewed now more than 3,000 people in the abduction syndrome. Right from the beginning, I was confused about the various physical descriptions. The standing up reptiles, the standing up grays, and the Nordic blondes. We have tall whites, 10 to 12 feet tall. That's biblical. Those are like the giants.
The cases that Linda looked into allowed us to tell a much deeper, richer story about multiple races, different agendas, and programs that are going on. The idea that humanity may be the subject of some extraterrestrial program of some sort.